sort out the live stream on YouTube. Okay. And then once we get the okay, I will hand over to Jenny to do the introductions.
Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me? We are about to start. Very good. Hi. So my name is Jenny, and I'm the Director Media at the Safe Cultural Heritage Group. And I would like to welcome you all to today's event. This panel discussion is a part of the International Archaeology Day celebrations that would typically be held on site on the 3rd of October, but due to COVID-19, we are celebrating virtually today. The topics of this discussion are related to archaeology and cultural heritage. So this discussion will seek to share the experience of individual panelists on the subject and how we can work together as a community from various fields of cultural heritage to combine our knowledge for a better future. Thank you so much to all of our participants and online followers around the world, as well as our panelists and guests, and especially our partners, the Archaeological Institute of America, and our main partners and moderators, Natasha from the Behind the Trowel, Megan, called Egyptian Rose, and Laura from Las Plumas de Simurg, as well as Nadim from Iranot Turan, Amelia from Amelia the Archaeologist, and Milena from Mimo Artes. Now we are going to start with our discussions. And we're very excited for some fruitful insights from our panelists. Our moderator for this session is going to be Natasha Billson, who is an archaeologist based in London, UK. She's a creator of Behind the Trowel, a platform for archaeologists across the globe to share their research and experience. And moreover, she is a presenter at the Great British Dig and is active in many different public archaeology projects. I would like to hand over to you, Natasha, and you also may say a couple of more words about yourself if you like.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome. Welcome to panel 1 of the Diversity of Archaeology. I'm so happy and honoured to be able to be moderating this panel discussion. Yes, so my name is Natasha Billson. I am an archaeologist, creative producer, and TV presenter on Channel 4's The Great British Dig, as well as a couple of Discovery Science TV shows as well. My background in archaeology is field archaeology, so it's a little bit different. I'm mainly in the grounds in sort of the commercial sector, and it's dealing with the archaeology every day as it comes out before developers come and destroy it effectively. So it's a very hands-on approach to doing archaeology, and I absolutely love it with the challenges that it does give. But I am looking forward to discussing the diversity of archaeology with the fellow panelists. And I do just make a quick request to admin, if it's possible for us to make this in gallery view so we can see everyone's face on the YouTube live stream. That would be amazing, please. Is it possible to do that? Yes. Ooh. And Amelia, do you have the interpreter here as well? before we start? You do, yeah? Okay, perfect. Okay, without further ado, let's get on to introductions. So for those of you who don't know, Amelia is a deaf archaeologist based in the USA, and she should have an interpreter with us during the Zoom call. So I do ask the panelists to speak a little bit slower so that she can be involved in the discussion. And actually, Amelia, would you like to go first? Yes. The interpreter, I don't think we can hear. One moment, please, everybody. There's just something technical coming through.
Oh,
can anybody
sorry,
hear the interpreter?
just got it. It's all technology. I'm here.
Oh, perfect. Amazing.
Oh,
So
perfect.
please.
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry about that. You know, technology is always something going on with technology. But anyway, yes, hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for having me, Natasha. Just want to say a little bit. I am an archaeologist here at the University of Colorado. I am based here. So I am working with BLM. Yes. And yeah, I'm an archaeologist, and I focus mainly on pretty much everything from past to future to, I mean, pretty much everything I study. I'm really excited to be on this panel. I look forward to having the discussion with everyone. And as we move forward, hopefully we can improve in some things as archaeologists.
Amazing. Thank you for the introduction, Amelia. Who would like to go next? Megan, would you like to go next?
Okay, I think that's me. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, please.
So my name's Megan. I'm actually doing the panel discussion moderating for the next panel, so stick around for that. But I am an American archaeologist who now lives in England. Basically, I'm looking forward to having a discussion about how to integrate archaeology, make it more accessible to other people, since I come from a Mexican-American household and now I live overseas. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how some people can discuss that. I'm gonna keep it nice and short and sweet. Okay.
Lovely to meet you, Megan. Let's go with Rachel. Hello, Rachel.
Hey everybody, my name's Rachel and I'm a Canadian archaeologist that lives and works in Scotland. Like Natasha, I have more of a commercial archaeology background, but I've also kind of diversified into doing a bit more on social media and everything. So I'll be participating in some of the other panels today as well. So I'm just really looking forward today to seeing everyone, like meeting everyone virtually and seeing what kind of discussion we can have about improving diversity and equality in archaeology, especially in the UK, where there is certainly a lack of diversity amongst the commercial archaeology field, as far as I'm aware. So.
Thank you, Rachel. Negeen, possible? Hiya.
Hi, hi everybody. Yeah, my name is Negeen Farsio. I am currently in California, USA, and I have a background in anthropology and a little bit of experience in archaeology. And yeah, just a quick introduction, right? Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here and meet all of you. This is a very cool format, so it's I'm happy to be a part of it. Thanks.
Lovely to meet you, Negeen. We have Kimberly. Is Kimberly here, actually? Let's see. Oh, Kimberly's not here. And who have I missed? I've missed somebody. Oh, Zahir, sorry. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, guys. My name is Zahir Hussain. I'm from Pakistan, and I have done my master's in archaeology. and my MPhil in Asian Studies, and I'm currently doing PhD in archaeology as well. And I have interest in prehistory and proto-history of Pakistan.
Wow. I love it. I'm loving the fact that we're quite an international board here. So we'll be able to add our own experiences into the mix as we discuss the topic for today's panel. By the way, this is an interactive panel discussion. So the audience, if you do have any questions, please put them in the YouTube live chat box. And if we have time, we'll be able to answer most of them. If you actually do need to be signed into a YouTube account to actually write a message in the live chat, which you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen. And so please feel free to make your comments there. Okay, so let's get into it. First question, quite heavy. Why do you think your field of archaeology is important? And how can we relate this archaeology to the public? Who would like to take that away? Who'd like to go first? It's quite a heavy topic in a way, because we all think what we do is important, right? But some people are like, like for especially Rachel, what Rachel and I do, or have done in the past, where, you know, we're in the trenches and we're like, do you really want to be doing that every day, all day? And we're like, yeah, we love it most of the time. So please, anyone feel free, jump in. Amelia, let's go, Amelia.
Okay, I will answer this first. And to be honest with you, I will say that all fields are very important in this area. You have different avenues that you can contribute to in your field. Whatever you're doing, skill-wise, as long as you're contributing your skill and what you have into that field. I think that just a slight bit of things could be the most important thing, but it's still important. Even the little things that you do. It's possible to give a huge archaeologist project, but your small contribution could be the most important thing for that site. So I just feel that everything, even the small parts, are the most important.
Brilliant. Megan, I saw you nodding your head there the whole time. Would you like to add?
I liked the whole concept of the little things that you contribute make the biggest impact. I specialize in ancient graffiti, and usually people wonder why that would be important to know. But I actually used that research to relate it to Native American graffiti in modern towns and how they were using graffiti to reoccupy space, just like ancient cultures used to use graffiti. And I feel like the smallest piece of graffiti that I could research can then somehow relate back to modern cultures who are still using graffiti in similar ways to reclaim their heritage and reclaim the space. So 100%, the smallest things make the biggest impact.
Rachel, please jump in.
I think one of the things that I really love about why archaeology is important is that it's really about connecting us to our past, especially beyond something like the historic record, which often tends to focus on particular individuals or groups and can exclude others. So a lot of the work that archaeology does is widening that picture that we have of the past, and also I think sometimes upsetting these kind of views of what the past was like that get taught to us in like school and stuff like that, you know, things about history that have been hidden by the historians because it either like wasn't in vogue, or, you know, maybe it was against their religion or their laws and stuff like that. So archaeology plays a really important part about restoring that to the public knowledge. Yeah.
Very valid points there. I mean, it's like one of those things where history is told by the winners, and I think that comes across in so many aspects, even in archaeology. So yeah, food for thought. Yeah, please jump in, Negeen.
Guys, yeah, so I wanted to add to that. That was you guys pretty much gave a good comprehensive explanation there. Just based on I had a brief experience where I worked with the Committee on Missing Persons in Cyprus, and basically what the organization's goal is to they go out in the field, they do digs, and they try to repatriate the missing remains of people that were missing from the Cypriot War over the course of the 60s and 70s. And it was amazing because you can see like the effect that it's has on people today, even though that was how many years ago, but it gives people a sense of closure. It also shows I guess a background to a conflict that many people may not be even familiar with. So I think archaeology does bring light to topics that a lot of people may not be familiar with, but also may not want to speak about because, conflicts in the past, we don't really want to, but it's important because it affects our future.
Brilliant again. And Zahir, what would you like to add?
I think you guys summed it up. Archaeologists trace the origins of different nations in different regions. And one of the points that we miss is the developments that we see, the developments throughout the time that with what we've started those things and what they have become today, they are still with us, but in very much refined form. For example, we're still using hammers that were started thousands of years before. And we trace the origins, the races, and each and everything. For example, in the past, if we see many myths were created regarding the origins of the humans. So archaeology scientifically proves those myths wrong, and it gives us authentic knowledge about those things. So we can say that it is a huge support and it connects the people very well in that regard. Thank you very much.
I do agree, with what you said there. But I'm going to put a little spanner in. Don't we think sometimes that if there's when you find something in the ground, you interpret it in a way because of your experiences? And that might be from actually working specifically in one type of civilization or culture or time period. And that may give us that view, sometimes a single-minded view of what we interpret something to be. So I'm curious, when you see about how other people always counter against us, for example, with the evolution of humans. And they would be like, well, it's from your point of view, you're pushing your agenda. So how can archaeologists stay neutral? I'm curious, what are your thoughts?
Well, staying neutral, speaking of being neutral, as in the past, Mortimer Wheeler have done researches and John Marshall. They have been, they were influenced a lot with Sumerian culture, Sumerian civilizations, and they came here to excavate Indus civilization. They were aware with the Western civilizations rather. So they were very much influenced with Western civilizations. So they interpreted most of the things in that regard, and they are in today's time period, they are being rejected with the passage of time. With the further researches are going on, and they are rejecting their views. So yes, there can be conflicting views. Of course, you're right, but we can avoid that by being by being very neutral. We cannot say that we are humans. We can be biased, but we can try at least not to be biased.
Beautiful. Amelia, you raised your hand earlier.
I did, yes. Okay, I was going to add a little more about what was recently said. It's just interesting. I do feel more in depth with archaeologists. I'm going to say the centric view regarding that. I was thinking, but previously,
Any research, I would have studied Native American research that I had studied within the pantograph with sign language. That was missing until I recently happened to seminar by Dr. Melanie McKay Cody. So that seminar was amazing. Her presentation was about deaf Native American women, and she has a PhD. And she was saying the pantograph has sign language in them. The actual explaining what to do with your hands and different signs in Native American language. So they had sign language even back then. That research was gone and never brought to fruition. Here in the 1970s, researchers were looking at thinking that was not sign language. So they gave us a local group and they asked around, what does this mean to you? And most of the sign language users said now, looking at it from then, the teacher said it was not researched then, but it means it was sign language. So now we are coming in our own opinion that was sign language, and the research has been missing for that many years. What a disappointment that it was not brought for so many years ago. And now we have to do our job and bring it into the light. So that was a disappointment. Now we're bringing it to light that it is now. They did not do their job well in the past. I just feel like that me, as far as my duty, to actually pay attention and ask around, doing my own research, like Zahir said, stay neutral, make sure everyone's involved, and you can ask other opinions, and that's what I'm doing right now. And really, I think we are right, and the research is being more in depth with me now.
Can I jump in? I was just going to say, like, I really think Amelia hit it on the head there. I think we need to kind of keep in mind, like, archaeology in a lot of ways is a science. And so we want to try and have a scientific approach about it. And with science, you have a hypothesis and then you're supposed to test it. And one of the ways to test it is to go to other people and ask their opinions about it. So I think that that's like acknowledging your bias, as Zahir said, and then kind of taking your research and going to other people is one of the best ways to try and make sure that you're testing your hypothesis as like rigorously as possible, so then you can be more confident that it's correct.
Exactly. I mean, the reason why I asked that question, because when we think about archaeology, and most of you mentioned this in your opening statements, you all mentioned diversity or the lack thereof in certain aspects. And I actually wonder if, I think archaeology is diverse. If we're talking about the individuals who are involved in it, I think the actual problem is that it's not inclusive. And that's why we don't have a diverse working force in certain aspects of what we're doing, because it's not inclusive. You don't feel comfortable. And if there's an issue, people find ways to not deal with it, so to speak. So for example, Amelia, you've gone to conferences. I've spoken to you before about this. And you've gone to a conference and you need captions to be visible to go to it. Yes? What if they don't do that? They're not being inclusive. They're not thinking about you and others who are in that situation. So it's sometimes, I do think it actually might be that's more something that we need to work on. And it's discussions like this that is maybe where we can all inspire each other to continue the movement, so to speak. So please, thoughts, jump in. Let's get into the topic. Most of you are nodding your heads. Please just jump in. It's more fun this way.
Okay, I'll jump in. So whenever we're talking about we need to basically be aware of our biases, I think that's actually one of the best ways to help with the diversity and more inclusion is if we're honest with our biases and we're honest with what we look at in our research. It actually does open other avenues to explore different questions that people weren't asking, because if we just try to stay neutral as the topic demands us to be, i.e. we have to follow a certain transcript of our research, well, then we're just going to repeatedly ask the same questions that have been asked before. But when we acknowledge our biases and look at things from a different angle, that's when we kind of start getting into the more inclusive research that I think we're all after. So honestly, I think bias is one of the things we need in order to open up the conversations even better, to expand our research.
You're right, because our differences unite us effectively, in a way, or they can. Amelia, please, sorry, jump in.
Yes. Okay, yes, I'll just go ahead. Yeah, so yeah, our bias, I think, it's okay to be biased. I do think so. I think it's how we really apply that, or how we express that with our research, and how it's possible so that we can move forward. And it's okay. It's just really important to notice and know that it is being biased, that we have our own opinions, and how we use that, and neutral as well. But with my deaf experience, many people in the field, they tend to set up a bias immediately. That's been my experience, and I have to show them that how we live, that it's still good, and that we can still contribute, even with the bias. I notice that that it is just as good as someone else.
Can I also add on to that?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great point that some of you were mentioning about, like, bringing our own bias. A lot of my background is in cultural anthropology, and I feel that we each have our own experience. So in cultural anthropology, they like to emphasize symbols in different cultures, and I think that's a very often it's overlooked how important that is, because let's say you are on your field, you're out in the field with other archaeologists, and you, I don't know, dig up, I'm just giving like a hypothetical, but if you dig up an artifact, it may mean nothing to the rest of your team, but to you, based on your experiences, your culture, you might say, hey, that I recognize this, or this is something that is prominent in my culture. So by bringing your own bias into it, you are actually diversifying it, the whole experience too, I think.
I just love how we're all nodding our heads like, yes. It's so true what you just said, Negeen, and please jump in, Zahir.
Well, I want to also add something that one of the scholars, I don't know the name, I think it was Michel Foucault, he once said that that we should involve the locals to study history. So I've seen, for example, when we are excavating or we are doing some sort of archaeological researches, I've seen many people don't involve the locals. For example, projects are going on, so the locals are not involved that much. So it is to a certain limit. For example, if there are experienced archaeologists, so they should be involved in their projects so that they could get their views, their understanding of their culture in that region. They can best avoid any biasness. For example, they can be neutral. They can get a good knowledge of that culture.
And also, I feel sometimes what the person who's local to that area, a local archaeologist, what's significant to them may not even be seen or looked into as much from someone who's coming, from an international expedition. So it's so true what you said. locals should be involved. And the stories I hear, it just surprises me that they're not. Like, I can't believe this is still happening. And it's interesting, actually, because, you know, one question I was going to ask, you know, to lighten the mood was, what is your, you know, what's been your favorite dig that you've ever done? Now, a lot of people would talk about international expeditions that they've been on, right? That's the first thing that you say, oh, I dug in this country and it was amazing. I went with my university. So out of curiosity, if you were going on a university dig, how many local archaeologists are actually involved in that process? And do they even get to see the material, the research, the reports? Do they get to see that in their own language? Questions? Yeah, please jump in, Rachel.
I got like a classic. I feel like you just addressed that question at me, because I definitely, if I not in like a negative way, but if anyone were to kind of ask me what my favorite dig was, it was when I did my undergraduate digs in the Kingdom of Jordan. And I went there for 3 summers, and they were probably like some of the best summers of my life, and I really enjoyed it. And it's really interesting because you always have a little bit of interaction from like the antiquities department, in terms of you have like a trained like archaeologist, somebody who's gotten an undergraduate degree, who will come on your site and, you know, helps make sure that everything's going to plan and everything, but they're not there necessarily every day, and they're just talking to the dig directors. But we also had local Bedouin crews who would come and help us with all of the kind of more manual labor part of digging. And they got to see everything, and they come out of the ground. And I mean, I think there's still sometimes with those kinds of crews some pretty colonial biases or views, but in my experience, whenever we kind of like tried to take the time to kind of be like, oh, look at this thing, or what do you think of this, like they were quite engaged. But obviously we also did have quite a language barrier, and as far as I'm aware, for ages in the Middle East, not just particularly Jordan, but everything tends to get taken home and it's published in like English, and because it's Canadian, perhaps like French. But now I think there's more of a more ownership is being taken of these countries of their archaeology, and they're starting to insist on things being published in Arabic, and they're starting to more involve local communities, because our site had just like a Bedouin like tent village basically just off of the site where they all came in, but we didn't go and like involve any other like nearby villages and stuff. I think that would have been something that could be really cool, is involving more of the local populace. But yeah, that's been my experience.
And I don't think, yeah, please jump in. I was just going to say, I don't think you're alone as well in that experience. I think a lot of us, looking back, realize that we could have made it a little bit better. Please, Negeen, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was just going to give add on to that from my own experience. Again, so when I was working in Cyprus, Cyprus is this little Mediterranean island with a huge ancient history, and they've had a lot of conflicts, a lot of ethnic conflicts between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. So when the organization that I was working with, I was actually the outsider, because it was good. It was nice to see that the whole team was pretty much either Turkish Cypriots or Greek Cypriots, and they each had they kind of brought their own history with it. So if there was an issue with language, we had people speaking from, both sides, and bringing in their own background. So it was nice because I was kind of the outlier. I was the one who was like, I didn't speak these languages. I only spoke English. So I think involving the locals, like you said, or the native people who are from that region, who understand their own history and their own background, and they're familiar because they speak the language. That's extremely important because it helps with progress so much.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you for sharing. Amelia? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't really have necessarily a favorite dig. I think, I have really enjoyed all of them. But my very first dig, I would say, was with the Maya research program. And it was in Belize, Belize. That was my very first experience doing the dig as a archaeologist, and I mean, in that program that I was in, we did include the locals, and they would drive us to the digging site. I mean, we had like going through like the trenches, like a forest. It was really cool though, like in the jungle. It was so cool, and just trying to communicate with us, and I just felt like I did understand them. Like it was actually easier with the sign language and the gesturing. We kind of like merged a little bit, kind of better understanding the pointing and showing us what to do, and it was a pretty cool experience. Yeah, the locals being there, and it was really nice. And that program also had Mennonites, and we were doing. They they would cook for us and had lunch and everything ready for us, and the people that were there for that program, and that was my first time that I was just like, wow, wow, the culture, everything, just the whole overview of everything. Yeah, my deaf culture and my identity and then theirs, and there was just so many things I was able to see about their culture, and it was just a really cool experience.
I need to jump in there because I was actually on this same project, I think a different time, but it's the Belize Valley Archaeological Reconnaissance Program, and it is absolutely phenomenal. They train all the locals to work with us throughout the entire program. So they actually will get 3 months off of whatever job they're doing to actually come work for us. And they learn how to conserve sites. So while I was excavating a temple, they're taking all of the mortar that I'm excavating and then using it to replaster other buildings so that they can conserve them. And then they also get trained for as tourism guides. So they are in there with us, seeing things as they come out. They go with us to the lab, they learn about the artifacts there. And then they actually go then and they do all the tours for the sites. And they can bring people in while excavations are still going on so that not only the locals, but also people from outside can come in and get a firsthand experience. And the best thing about that program is they basically treat what we're excavating as still a living culture. So all of the Mayan population that is in Belize is still involved because we don't think that it's a population that died out. We just think it changed. It went from temples to like huts, from huts to homes, and so on and so forth. And it's such a phenomenal approach. So when I heard that, I was like, yes, yes, BVAR, check it out. It is insanely incredible. And it is one of the very few programs that I feel actually does a great job of incorporating the locals and international populations into more of a cohesive learning experience. So yeah.
Could we get the link, if possible, to the expedition or the research that they do? I think a really nice case study to look at.
I will pop that into the chat on YouTube if I can. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and maybe we can ask the organisation to save it in the description box as well, so anyone can just quickly see it. That is brilliant.
Perfect.
And I've just been notified that we have 6 minutes left on this panel discussion. It has flown by. So who have we not heard from a while? I'm thinking, Zahir, anything to add into what we were just talking about? What's been your favourite dig or find?
Well, I really don't have a favorite dig, actually. I just enjoy digging sites. But yeah, interestingly, when I was on a survey in Balochistan, figurines, photohistoric animal figurines, they were probably, they can be dated to what you can say, Chalcolithic period. And my research is on them, so I find them interesting, and it's amazing to have them with me.
Unfortunately, you broke up a little bit there, but it does sound like a very cool research project. I'd love to see some photos. Anyone else actually would like to say their favourite site before we start wrapping things up? I mean, it's now the perfect time for any of our listeners within the Zoom call. If you'd like to ask us any questions, please raise your hand, and then we can go around whilst we are slowly starting to wrap up. Any questions from anybody else in the Zoom chat that is listening to us? And I'll quickly just check YouTube. Questions? No? Okay, don't worry. You can always write them as well if you feel uncomfortable to speak. Kieran from Instagram. I recognize your name. If you're listening, do you have any questions? No? Okay. I tried. I always love being able to talk to Instagram friends. Amelia is one of my favorites. Okay, right. So let's start to wrap things up. We weren't really able to delve too much into how we could.
I did
really,
want to. Oh, sorry. This is Amelia here. I just wanted to jump in at the last bit. It's hard to see when I can't jump in with the interpreter, so apologies. I wanted to say that I guess people typically are a little nervous and uncomfortable when it's a panel discussion because of the variety of inclusion. I think maybe you shouldn't be uncomfortable. You should jump in and have your own opinion. And it's including a diversity, including and part of the world of our archaeology world that we're learning. So I feel that sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know what to ask, but go ahead and ask anything you would like at all, especially in a panel discussion. Every question is a good question. Some things we've never been asked before, which would be wonderful. Something new and adventurous for us to explore. So yes, just wanted to throw that out there. Ask anything you'd like.
Thank you, Amelia. And also, when you do panel discussions in general, like not everybody feels comfortable when they're a part of it. So sometimes it's nice to have members of the public or those listening to jump in. I think, as you said, it does make it more inclusive and accessible, because that's why we're doing this. We do public engagement, or we do public archaeology, because we want to engage with anyone and everyone who wants to listen about archaeology, just even if it's like a little bit, to try and sway them into how amazing our job is and like our passion, because we do this because we love archaeology. We would not be doing it otherwise. Don't get paid enough to do it. And it's hard. It's hard work, no matter what aspect of the discipline you're doing. If I remember correctly, I think I heard there's something like 80 different career paths in archaeology, which is just mind-blowing. It's such a diverse subject. It's for everyone, no matter what you're interested in. I'm sure there's something for you in archaeology. We weren't really able to talk too much about inclusion, but I think we have actually raised some really key points here. And in summary, there seems to be a change. Slowly, it's happening. More of these discussions are happening. People are talking, they're stirring that pot. They want to acknowledge universities, museums, the history that they've done, like in certain countries and excavations. They have to, change the way that they interpret the information. And I think it's becoming more accessible. However, I would say language is still probably the main problem here. Being able to communicate with each other and sharing that information with no other agenda. So something to think about, I'd say. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap this up as we're coming up to that finish mark, literally, I think, in a few seconds. Kieran, what did you say? Well, thank you, Kieran, anyways. Apologies, because it's on YouTube, you won't see we have a chat over on Zoom, and Kieran's mic is broken. But he has a great Instagram account as well. So life as a commercial archaeologist, if you're interested in that. I think now you went to university, I can't remember. I feel like I've been stalking you, but I haven't, honest. You just come up on my feed. But anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in to this panel discussion. Unfortunately, we have hit the end of the discussion. It's the end of the road. However, there are 2 more panels and they're going to be starting shortly, I think in 10 minutes or so. So get a cup of tea, have a little walk around, get some fresh air and get ready for panel 2. Thank you for tuning in. Bye, everyone. Bye.